Hello, traders. Well, today we finally got that sell-off we've been calling for, all spooked by the outbreak of the China virus. Uh, I think Chicago, they found a case of it now. And it caused a little bit of panic in the markets. But basically, all we're seeing in the markets is basically the overbought situation. We've just reset some of our indicators and come exactly down to where I had been mentioning we should come back into. And we spent about 15 minutes below this, was it 327.70 area. And that was the value for last week that developed out last week, and that's where we should have been trading most of this week. So we pretty much gave up all of this week's value, came down and tested last week's value, and we're finding a little bit of responsive buying after this Boeing news hit the wire. That's spoofing the markets higher. Okay. Okay, what I had been mentioning in the last video was how uh, the dot, the developing value for this next week, was way down here near the lows of the week. Well, since then, since that last video yesterday, it had managed to migrate higher off of yesterday's uh, volume. But as of today, we finally got a breakdown. But just realizing that we did have that situation, the things that I was looking at, I had mentioned in the video how the semiconductors were very strong. The semiconductors were very strong, had a very strong, evenly distributed profile for the week. And today we actually had a blow off top situation a little bit after Intel came out with their very impressive numbers. So it's got a little mixed distribution here on the semiconductors, but they were holding up really strong relative to the Qs. So that told me, by seeing that relative divergence uh, in the Qs, volume was diverging away from price. That told me that the FANG stocks had gotten overbought for the week. And I have a conglomerate chart. Wait one second here. So what I was looking at today coming in here was shorting some of the FANG names, especially Facebook and Google, and possibly even Apple. And this is my chart of the FANGs. One second here. So basically, the stocks that are showing some of the most relative weakness this afternoon are Facebook, which seems to be breaking us, getting down to bottom of some ranges. We did, when the market turned around on the Boeing news, seeing a little bit of bounce in Facebook. And it's good that Boeing news came out because it's really supporting these markets here. Google's not getting quite as much of a bounce here. I do think this is an overbought situation for Google, and we're probably going to have continued weakness for Google next week. So that's one I'd be very shy to go on the long side. Okay. Those are the two main ones. And then, well, Netflix also. I just can't believe that the short squeeze that hit Netflix yesterday. Boom. And it seems to be holding up here at the highs. The numbers were not impressive at all. So this is one, if the markets do decide to start rolling over, I would want to fade this, in my opinion. But same thing happened to Caterpillar last year, or last quarter, and it just kept on going. So I don't know in this market what to call on that. Now, quickly on some of my scans here, some of the top action I'm seeing today. Square is really on fire today. And now with that news out of Boeing, it is really rocking on these weekly options that expire today. We've just seen in the past half an hour a 500% increase in some of these Boeing options. So quite amazing move here on the press release that the FAA is the new FAA chairman is really impressed with some of the work that Boeing has done to fix problems with the Boeing, with the Max plane. So take that for what it is. But it's amazing how one little press release can get things really moving here. Then we had very good earnings out of American Express. It's still up, and Broadcom is showing some relative strength today too. And then Netflix is down here at the bottom of the pack. So just a couple things that's happening in the market today. Okay, that was the bullish side on the calls today. Now on the put side, look at this, man. CVS Caremark, 7250 puts, 2,500% today. Boy, oh boy. But wouldn't you like to have been in that one? And then you have another one here, United Airlines. It was up 1,000% today on the put side. So yeah, the returns on the put side are really awesome today. I had mentioned in my last video also about Luckin Coffee and it's had a major run up this past quarter. So considering the scare that's happening in China, they are drastically liquidating their positions. And then there was even talk this morning about them shutting down casinos in China. They're going to shut them down. So Win is up 300% on for the day on that news, and it was already battered pretty bad yesterday. So that is one of the major casinos in Macau. So and AMD was up considerably earlier this morning, but you can see that it has completely rolled back over, and now the puts have. So you could have probably more than that because they were way up this morning. So you're probably looking, if you'd got near the highs, 200-300% on the AMD, by losing all their gains and going to negative for the day. So yeah, there's some really serious good payouts here on the put side today, which that hasn't happened for quite some time. And as you can see, the Luckin Coffee there, it is just barely holding positive for 2020 on the chart here. So it has found some support, it seems, at the moment. It doesn't want to quite go negative on the year on Luckin Coffee. Okay, one of the indices to be worried about, and that's your IWM, your Russell. We are negative on the year now. We did cross back down negative for the year on the Russell again. Completely have given up all of last week's value. So 2 weeks worth of value now potentially in jeopardy. Now we still have value built up higher going into next week, and we are basically technically short in the hoe versus value on IWM going into next week. So that's something to keep on watch. Okay, and see what happens, develops from here. And but we do have right here a lot of value that built out for a couple weeks on Russell, and that's where we're trading right in this area right now on the Russell. But being negative on the year, that is something to be concerned about. And then you have your XLF, which I've been having on watch. Look at this. We've been holding the line. As of today, we're having a breakaway move, closing price away from value. Now, so far, the weekly value is higher, but if you go down on see, prices are being accepted at lower prices here on our daily. So, yeah, we can go back up, rocket back up, but that is something to keep in mind. It's not like we just came down with the volume point of control at the highs. It's at the lows of the session. So that makes you want to consider a continuation move to the downside starting next week with the financial show doing that. And you see what's happening here. We've broken this primary uptrend, a continuation down, retesting the trend line. This is looking more and more in the cards, and trying to take longs from here is quite hazardous, if you ask me. Seeing the relative weakness setting up here in the financials. Okay, you're still seeing what I'm saying. Seeing here, you see how the volume point of control here on the monthly webs is still right here at the bottom. Okay, so that is something, that's a very important situation. That's why I'm thinking the FANG names are going to show relative weakness next week. We have a divergence happening here. Volume is not supporting price on the monthly. So if the markets were to start selling off, I would be concerned that the FANG names are going to possibly lead us to the downside. Now, if you look at SMH on the monthly here, it's evenly distributed. we can come back in easily, of course. We're above the developing value for the month. Yeah, this can definitely come in, but the FANG names are what really concerns me. That the parts of the market that aren't in the semiconductor, but in the Nasdaq, those are the ones that concern me. That we're going to potentially see some selling pressure into next week. And I'm still watching Tesla. Price right now is still above the entire developing value area for Tesla. So basically, 80% of this month's volume is below the current price for Tesla. So, this is, to me, because of that situation, this is a bear flag, not a bull flag, in my opinion. So just keep this one in mind that if the markets show continued weakness, and if this is a significant high, which I think it is for the markets, that the risk is to the down, or the risk is to the upside, in my opinion. And the markets are more likely to come in. And we do have earnings the 29th. So earnings are out next week. But coming in here is nothing. I mean, like I had mentioned before, the weekly volume value for this week was supposed to be 510, but it built out value up here this week. So we're basically trading $50 above last week's value. So we're going to go into next week with a $50 higher value price into earnings. So that is a significant value jump for a weekly value. And this value here is outside of the monthly value. So that's quite worrisome going into some of these numbers next week. And I'm going to finish the video off talking about how amazing this move is with Boeing. I mean, it came right down here, and just an explosive move off that headline going into next week for Boeing. Just the idea of some positive comments out of the FAA is supporting price. But we all know they're going to have a massive write-down. Boeing's going to have a massive write-down. And I don't know. I mean, it just... they were given targets $550 price target for Boeing before all this MAX stuff happened. I'm still in the camp that I think they're going to completely scrap the brand, the MAX brand. It has been damaged so bad that I do think they're going to scrap it. And I would venture to say within 6 months there's going to be plans in the work to completely scrap the design of the MAX and come up with a new body. They're trying to reuse an old body to save money, but I have a feeling they're going to announce they're going to launch a new body or new frame for the MAX, and it's quite an expensive venture to have to make a whole new frame for a plane. That's why they did what they did, and that's caused them all these headaches because they're trying to compete with Airbus. With a Airbus sits higher, and they didn't. The 737 sits closer to the ground, and the engines didn't have quite the room to be put on the wings. I mean, there's not much clearance at all because they've got the bigger engines, and but I think there's going to be a complete redesign of the MAX coming in the next coming months, and that's all going to be quite expensive ventures on the part of Boeing to continue to compete with Airbus. But so just keep that in mind going forward here. In my opinion, Airbus has the superior product right now on the market, and Boeing is just trying to play catch up to their superior product, and by doing so, they significantly damaged their own name and brand, the Boeing name and brand, by doing so. Well, guys, I will see you next week. I am not uber but bearish here. We got the reset like I was hoping for, and now that the earnings are coming in fairly decent so far. We saw that with Intel. I forgot to mention about Intel today. very good earnings. They've come back in a little bit. Intel. This is what I consider a significant resistance zone for Intel. And if the markets do decide to sell off, I think this is going to mark a significant high period for Boeing, especially if the markets show some relative weakness. So we were getting that right at the open today, and we tried to push up above. Well, I still think this to be significant resistance. That's why I do not really wish to initiate new long positions into Intel at these price levels, in my opinion. So just keep that in mind if you're planning on to swing Intel into next week. I will see you next week. Sure, and leave some comments below. And thanks a lot.